My parents uninvited me to please my sister after I paid $7,000 to save their home, so I cut them off, and what happened next left them desperate. I, a 31-year-old male, was just sitting on my beat-up leather couch last December, scrolling through Reddit on my phone while ESPN played in the background. It was one of those boring Sunday afternoons where you're not really watching the game, but you need something to fill the silence of your empty apartment. Outside, it was starting to snow. One of those heavy, silent snowfalls that makes the world seem quieter somehow. The kind that piles up on window ledges and turns the streetlights into blurry halos. My apartment isn't much to look at, just a one-bedroom in the crappier part of town where the rent is cheap enough that I can save a little each month. The walls are too thin, the neighbors too loud, and the heating never quite works right. But it's mine. I pay for it with my construction job. Not glamorous work by any means, but it pays the bills. I've been with the same company for 5 years now, working my way up from basic laborer to crew supervisor. My hands are always rough, my back always sore, but there's something satisfying about building something with your own two hands that office people will never understand. At least it pays my bills, and apparently everyone else's too. When my phone lit up with Dad's name, I almost didn't answer. The last 3 times he called, it was to borrow money for some emergency with the house. First it was the water heater, then the property taxes, then some plumbing disaster. But family is family, right? That's what I kept telling myself anyway. That's what kept me sending money month after month when I should have been saving for my own future. "Hey, what's up?" I answered, muting the TV. "Alex," my dad said, his voice as casual as if we had just talked yesterday, when in reality it had been 3 weeks since I'd heard from any of them. "Listen, about Christmas this year, we think it's better if you don't come." I sat up straight, nearly dropping my phone. The game on the screen continued playing, but I couldn't hear anything except the blood rushing in my ears. "What?" I managed to say, convinced I'd misheard him. He let out that annoyed sigh he's perfected over the years, the one that makes you feel like you're still 10 years old and asking too many questions about why the sky is blue. "Megan's having a rough time lately. You know how sensitive she gets. All that tension between you two. It's just easier for everyone if you sit this one out." My sister Megan, of course. The golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when she absolutely messed everything up. 2 years older than me, but somehow still treated like she's made of glass. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're uninviting me from Christmas, family Christmas, because Megan is having a rough time?" "Don't make this a big deal, Alex," Dad replied impatiently. I could practically see him waving his hand dismissively, the way he always did when I brought up anything that mattered to me. "It's just one day. You'll survive." That's when I felt something snap inside me, like a wire that had been stretched too tight for too long. All the resentment, all the frustration, all the times I'd bitten my tongue for the sake of family peace. It all came rushing to the surface at once. "One day?" I repeated, my voice rising despite my efforts to control it. "And what about the $7,000 I've paid toward your mortgage this year? Does that mean nothing? Am I just good enough to pay your bills but not good enough to sit at your table?" There was this long, awkward silence on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing, probably trying to come up with some way to manipulate me into backing down like he always did. Finally, he cleared his throat. "That's different. You offered to help out. Don't throw that in our faces now." I stood up, pacing my small living room, the floor creaking under my feet, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. The room suddenly felt too small, too confining, like the walls were closing in. "I've been paying your mortgage for 2 years, $7,000 just this year alone, ever since Megan's stupid tech startup crashed and burned, and you guys bailed her out instead of making her face consequences like an actual adult. But sure, I offered to do it." "We appreciate it, Alex," he said in that condescending tone that made me want to punch a wall, the same tone he used when I told him I was going to trade school instead of college. "But this isn't about money, it's about family. Megan needs a stress-free environment right now. She's in a very vulnerable place." I walked to my window, watching the snow pile up on the street below. My reflection stared back at me, tired eyes, 3-day stubble. The look of a guy who's been taken advantage of for way too long. Behind me, on my coffee table, sat a stack of bills I'd been putting off paying because I'd sent my parents their mortgage money first, like I always did. "Family," I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Funny how I'm family when you need my paycheck, but not when it's time to sit around the Christmas tree. Funny how Megan's vulnerable place matters more than the fact that I've been breaking my back to keep a roof over all your heads." "You're being dramatic," he started, but I was done. Done being interrupted, done being dismissed, done being the family ATM. "No, Dad, you made your choice. Enjoy your Megan-friendly Christmas, but don't expect another dime from me. Not tomorrow, not next month, not ever again." I hung up before he could respond, tossing my phone onto the couch like it was burning my hand. My heart was pounding, hands shaking with a mix of rage and something else, maybe relief. For once, I'd stood up for myself instead of just taking it. I grabbed my laptop from the side table and sat back down, opening up my banking app. It was time to make a decision that would change everything. Let me tell you about my perfect sister Megan, a 29-year-old female. I need you to understand what I've been dealing with all these years. Honor roll student, college volleyball star, homecoming queen, mom's precious angel, and dad's brilliant girl. The kind of sister who borrowed your stuff without asking and then acted like you were the jerk when you wanted it back. The kind who got a car for her 16th birthday while I got a watch for mine. The kind who never had to work a summer job because she needed to focus on her studies, while I was mowing lawns since I was 14. Our childhood bedroom doors tell the whole story. Hers was plastered with ribbons, medals, and trophies. Mine had exactly one participation award from Little League that Dad called a good start with that disappointed look in his eye. 2 years ago, she quit her steady marketing job to launch this revolutionary fitness app called Fit Focus, or something like that, swearing up and down it would make millions. Mom and Dad ate it up like it was gospel truth. She's so entrepreneurial, Mom would gush during our rare phone calls. That's my girl, taking risks. Dad would beam at family dinners I was still invited to back then. They didn't just give her emotional support. No, they went all in, remortgaging their house they'd almost paid off to give her $80,000 in startup money. They didn't even hesitate. Now, when I wanted to go to trade school instead of college, that was short-sighted, Alex. You're wasting your potential. When I needed $2,000 for my certification courses, we're not made of money. But Megan's half-baked app idea? Here's our life savings and the deed to our house. The app launched, crashed, and burned. The whole thing collapsed within 3 months. Server issues, design flaws, zero marketing plan. Turns out my sister's brilliant vision was just an Instagram filter and a calorie counter packaged in a shitty interface that kept crashing. She hadn't even bothered to test it properly before launch. Why would she? Nothing had ever been hard for her before. Mom and Dad were suddenly on the hook for a massive mortgage they couldn't afford on Dad's postal worker salary and Mom's part-time reception gig. They were going to lose the house I grew up in, the house where, despite everything, I still had some good memories. And guess who stepped up? Me, Alex. The disappointment. The one who wasted his potential on construction work. The one who wasn't living up to the family name by getting my hands dirty for a living. I started covering their mortgage payments. $583 a month, $7,000 this year alone, money that came straight out of my account while Megan was posting pics of her healing retreats and her new MacBook Pro that she apparently needed for her job search. I never complained, just gritted my teeth and sent the money every month, picked up extra shifts, worked weekends, skipped vacations, drove my 10-year-old car with 170,000 miles on it, and prayed it wouldn't break down. I lived in my crappy apartment with the noisy neighbors and the temperamental heating because it was all I could afford while supporting 2 households, all while Megan lived rent-free in their basement, raiding their fridge, using their Netflix, and talking about her next big idea that was definitely going to work out this time, guys, for real. You know what the worst part was? She never once said thank you, never acknowledged that her failure had consequences that I was bearing the brunt of. At Thanksgiving, which I was still invited to back then, she had the nerve to ask me why I didn't get a real job with my full potential so I could afford a better car. I nearly choked on my turkey. And now I wasn't welcome for Christmas. The one day a year when even the most messed up families pretend to like each other for a few hours. The day I'd been secretly looking forward to because it meant a decent meal I didn't have to cook myself and the illusion of belonging somewhere, even if just for a few hours. I grabbed my laptop and logged into the bank account I'd set up specifically for their mortgage payments. My name was on it because Dad couldn't figure out online banking, and Mom just smiled and said, "You're so good with money, Alex." There it was, $7,000 gone this year. Every dollar earned through backbreaking labor, hauling materials in freezing cold and sweltering heat. Each payment a reminder of the family that only wanted me for my wallet. I navigated to the automatic payment settings and clicked cancel all scheduled payments. My finger hovered over the confirm button for just a second before pressing it firmly. A notification appeared. All scheduled payments have been canceled. I went a step further and transferred the money I'd set aside for their January payment back into my personal account, then closed the laptop with a satisfied snap. For the first time in 2 years, I felt like I could breathe again. I felt like I was taking back control of my own life. Let's see how vulnerable Megan feels when the bank starts sending foreclosure notices. The next couple of weeks went by like normal, except I was suddenly $583 richer every month. Amazing how much breathing room that gives a guy. I even treated myself to a new pair of work boots, the kind with extra arch support that makes a difference when you're on your feet for 10 hours a day. A small luxury, but it felt huge. Snow kept building up outside. December in Michigan doesn't mess around. The temperatures dropped to the teens, and the wind chill made it feel like negative numbers. I kept showing up to work sites, swinging hammers, running saws, coming home with sawdust in my boots and concrete dust in my lungs. The cold made everything harder. Materials didn't want to cooperate. Equipment took longer to warm up, and my fingers were constantly numb despite the heavy gloves. But you know what? I didn't mind it so much anymore because every dollar I earned was finally staying with me. No calls from the family yet, just the steady rhythm of my own life for once. Friday night, I met up with my buddy Chris at the pizza place near his apartment. We've been friends since we were dumb kids stealing cigarettes behind the high school gym. He's a plumber now, makes decent money when people's pipes burst in the winter, which in Michigan is pretty much a guaranteed income stream from December through March. The place was packed with the Friday crowd, couples on dates, families with noisy kids, groups of friends starting their weekend. Classic rock played over the speakers, the smell of pepperoni and cheese in the air, the constant chatter of people actually enjoying themselves. Chris slid a soda across the table to me, eyeing me suspiciously. "You look different," he said. "Less, I don't know, hunched over, like you're not carrying a piano on your back anymore." I took a long sip and let it all out. Dad's call, Megan's drama, being uninvited from Christmas after covering their mortgage for 2 years straight. Chris's jaw literally dropped, a half-eaten slice of pizza frozen halfway to his mouth. "You're kidding me. They actually uninvited you after you've been paying their mortgage?" I nodded, grabbing a slice from the pie between us. "Yep. So I canceled all the payments. They don't know yet." He threw his head back and laughed so loud the table next to us looked over. "Holy man, that's cold as ice. When will they find out?" "End of the month, when the payment doesn't go through. Right after Christmas." I couldn't help the grin spreading across my face. First, they get their perfect family Christmas without me. Then they get the bank calling about their missed payment. Chris raised his glass to not being a doormat anymore. We clinked cups. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control over my own life. "You know they're going to freak out, right?" Chris said, wiping pizza grease from his beard. "Like nuclear meltdown level freak out." I shrugged. "Let them. I'm done caring." "Good for you, man," he nodded. "About damn time. I've been watching you kill yourself for them for 2 years while they treat you like garbage. Should have cut them off a long time ago." He was right, of course. I should have. But there's something about family, some stupid ingrained loyalty that makes you keep trying long after it's clear you're the only one putting in any effort. The days ticked by. I bought myself a new TV for Christmas, a 55-inch smart TV, the works. Why not? It was my money. I even grabbed one of those fake trees from Walmart and set it up in the corner of my living room, put a couple of wrapped presents under it, just stuff I'd bought for myself, but it made the place look festive. If I wasn't going to their Christmas, I'd make my own. Meanwhile, none of them had called. Not Mom to check if I was okay, not Dad to apologize, definitely not Megan to thank me for the 2 years I'd kept a roof over her ungrateful head. Just silence. And for once, that silence felt good. I went to the grocery store and splurged on ingredients for a decent Christmas dinner. Not the dried-out turkey and lumpy mashed potatoes Mom always made, but a nice steak, some roasted potatoes, fresh green beans, the kind of meal I never bothered to make just for myself because it seemed like too much effort. As I was loading my cart, I ran into Mrs. Peterson, our old neighbor from when I was growing up. She looked surprised to see me. "Alex, how are you, dear? Getting ready for Christmas with your parents? I just saw your mother yesterday at the store. She was buying so much food, as usual. That woman always cooks enough for an army." I forced a smile. "Actually, I'm not going this year, just having a quiet one at my place." Her face fell. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I lied. "Just a change of plans this year." As I walked away, I pictured them setting up their usual Christmas decorations, Mom hanging the stockings, one for each of them. None for me this year. Dad struggling with the tree lights while Megan lounged on the couch, probably scrolling through Instagram instead of helping. I added a carton of ice cream to my cart and smiled. They had no idea what was coming. The first message came 3 days before Christmas. I was at Home Depot, grabbing supplies for a side job I'd picked up to fill the dead week between Christmas and New Year's, when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Alex, honey, the bank called about the mortgage payment. They said it didn't go through. Is everything okay with the account?" I slipped the phone back in my pocket without answering. Let them sweat. 2 hours later, Dad called. I sent it straight to voicemail. His message was less pleasant. Alex, what's going on with the mortgage payment? Call me back right away. I didn't. Then came Megan's text. Always the last to realize there was a problem, but the first to make demands. Alex, Mom and Dad are freaking out about the mortgage. Fix it now. I was sitting on my new couch, watching my new TV, eating pizza I'd ordered as a treat, when I finally decided to respond. Not to her, though, to Mom. Sorry, can't help with the mortgage anymore. Tight budget. Christmas is expensive, you understand. Short, direct, the kind of casual dismissal they'd given me. Her response came almost immediately, "What? But we're counting on that money, Alex. We can't make the payment without you." I took another bite of pizza, letting the cheese stretch and then snap. That's tough. Maybe Megan can help out. She lives there rent-free anyway. Then I silenced my phone and turned back to the nature documentary I was watching. Something about penguins. Fascinating stuff. The next morning, I had 8 missed calls, 3 voicemails from Dad, each one angrier than the last. The final one was a proper explosion. "Alex, you can't just stop paying with no warning. The bank says we're already late. Call me back now." Megan had sent a series of increasingly hysterical texts. "WTF, Alex, answer your phone. You're ruining everything on purpose. Mom is crying because of you." Good. Let her cry. Let them all feel what it's like to be the ones nobody gives a damn about. I texted Mom once more. "Sorry, already spent the money on Christmas gifts for myself. Good luck with the payment." Then I blocked all 3 of them. Christmas was 2 days away, and for the first time, I was looking forward to spending it alone. That afternoon, I ran into my neighbor Jim in the parking lot. He's a decent guy, works nights as a security guard, always brings in my packages if they're sitting outside my door. "Hey man, you're looking cheerful," he said as he helped me carry my new TV box from the car. "Hot date for Christmas?" I laughed. "Nah, just treating myself this year. Family-free holiday." "Lucky you," he grunted, maneuvering the box through my narrow doorway. "I've got the in-laws coming. 3 days of my father-in-law telling me I mounted the TV wrong and my mother-in-law rearranging my kitchen cabinets. We got the TV inside, and I gave him a couple of sodas from my fridge as thanks. As he was leaving, he turned back. "Hey, if you're on your own for Christmas, why don't you come over for dinner? Shannon always makes too much food anyway. No pressure, just if you want to." I was surprised by the offer. It was the first genuine invitation I'd had in a long time. "Thanks, man, I'll think about it." And I did think about it. It was nice to know that someone actually wanted me around for Christmas, not just my wallet. Christmas morning arrived with another heavy snowfall. I slept in until 10 o'clock, something I never get to do with my work schedule. No alarm, no job site to get to, no family obligations, just peace and quiet. I made myself a proper breakfast, bacon, eggs, the works, brewed some fancy coffee I'd picked up, turned on the Christmas music channel just because I could. Around noon, someone started pounding on my door, the kind of pounding that means business, not Jim's friendly knock or the delivery guy's quick rap. Through the peephole, I saw Dad standing there in his winter coat, face red with either cold or anger, probably both, his breath making little clouds in the frigid hallway air. I opened the door but kept the chain on. "Merry Christmas," I said, enjoying the way his eyes narrowed. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demanded, his voice echoing down the hallway. "The bank called again yesterday. We're late on the payment." I leaned against the door frame. "Yeah, that happens when you don't pay your bills. You know we can't afford it without you," he snapped, trying to look through the crack in the door at my apartment. I could see him noticing the Christmas tree, the wrapped presents, the new TV visible in the background. "Funny how that works," I replied calmly. "I can't afford to help people who don't consider me family enough to spend Christmas with." His face turned an even deeper shade of red. "This is childish, Alex. This is about our house. Your mother is beside herself. Should have thought about that before you kicked me out of Christmas," I shrugged. "How's Megan handling the stress? Still feeling vulnerable?" "This isn't about Megan. It's always about Megan," I cut him off. "Even now, you're standing at my door on Christmas Day. Not to invite me over or apologize, but to demand money. That's all I am to you guys, an ATM." He switched tactics, his voice suddenly pleading. "Alex, please, we'll lose the house. We're already behind." "Not my problem anymore," I said and closed the door. He kept pounding, kept yelling, but eventually gave up and left. I heard his car start up, the engine struggling in the cold before finally turning over. I went back to my Christmas breakfast, turned up the music, and poured another cup of coffee. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone lit up with a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Mom, using Megan's phone to bypass my block. "Alex, please, we need you. We're family." I typed back. "Families don't uninvite members from Christmas to keep the golden child comfortable. Families don't take $7,000 from someone and then throw them away. Merry Christmas. Then I blocked Megan's number too and spent the rest of the day in beautiful, peaceful solitude. I cooked my steak perfectly medium rare, just the way I like it. The potatoes were crispy on the outside, fluffy inside. I ate at my little table with actual napkins and a real plate instead of the paper ones I usually used. I'd even bought myself a small apple pie for dessert. After dinner, I opened the presents I'd wrapped for myself. New headphones, a couple of video games I'd been wanting, a nice watch to replace the cheap one that had finally died after 5 years. Small things, but things I denied myself because that $583 always had to go to them first. As I was trying out the headphones, there was another knock at the door, softer this time. Mom. I ignored it, turned up the volume on my headphones and pretended I couldn't hear. She knocked for a while, then gave up. Later, I found a card she'd slipped under the door. Inside was the usual generic Christmas message, signed Love, Mom and Dad, not even written specifically to me, just a store-bought card they probably had extras of. No mention of being sorry for uninviting me, no acknowledgement of all I'd done for them, just a card that could have been given to anyone. I tossed it in the trash and went back to my peaceful evening. Around 8 o'clock in the evening, Jim texted to see if I wanted to come over for dessert and games. I took him up on it, spent the evening with his family playing board games and eating homemade cookies. His kids were actually pretty cool. The 10-year-old was really into building things, so we talked about construction. His wife, Shannon, was warm and welcoming, never once making me feel like the charity case I probably was. I walked back to my apartment around midnight. The snow had finally stopped, the world quiet and still. For a family-free Christmas, it hadn't been bad at all. The week between Christmas and New Year's was when it really hit the fan for them. I got up early on the 26th to head to that side job I'd picked up. 6 hours of installing drywall in a basement renovation. Hard work, but the pay was good, and it kept my mind busy. When I got home, sweaty and covered in drywall dust despite the mask I'd worn, Chris was waiting in his truck in the parking lot. "Dude," he said as I walked up, "you've got to hear this. My cousin Tommy lives down the street from your parents, remember?" I nodded, unlocking my door and gesturing for him to come in. "They're in full panic mode," he continued, following me inside and dropping onto my couch. "Your dad's going around to everyone in the family asking for loans. Your mom was crying at your aunt's house yesterday, and apparently Megan's throwing absolute fits." I opened my fridge and grabbed 2 sodas, tossing one to Chris. "How bad is it?" "Bad," Chris grinned. "They missed the payment completely. Bank sent some kind of notice, and get this, your dad had to cancel the cable and internet to try to scrape together some cash. That meant Megan couldn't even binge Netflix in the basement anymore." The thought made me smile. "Your cousin say anything else?" I asked, sinking into my new recliner, another Christmas present to myself. "Yeah, actually, the best part. Your sister finally got a job." I nearly choked on my drink. "You're kidding me." "Doing what?" "Cashier at Kroger," he laughed. "Apparently, she cried the whole first day because someone yelled at her about coupons." I leaned back, a strange mix of satisfaction and something like pity washing over me. Megan had never had to deal with the real world before, had never been yelled at by a customer or had her feet ache after an 8-hour shift or worried about whether her paycheck would cover her bills. "Welcome to the working world, sis," I muttered. "It's not all Instagram filters and startup dreams out here." That night, another text came through from an unknown number. My aunt this time, Alex. "Honey, your parents are in real trouble. They might lose the house. Can't you help them? Whatever happened between you, they're still your family." I texted back, "Ask Megan to help. She's lived there rent-free for 2 years while I paid $7,000 toward their mortgage. They uninvited me from Christmas because I make Megan uncomfortable. They made their choice." I didn't hear back from her. The next day, I was at the gym when my phone rang, unknown number again. This time, I answered. "Hello," I said between sets on the bench press. "Alex." It was my mother, her voice small and shaking. "The bank, they're threatening foreclosure if we don't catch up on payments. We don't have the money." I sat up, wiping sweat from my forehead with a towel. "That sounds like a problem for you, Megan, and Dad to figure out." "Please," she begged, and I could hear she was crying. "We'll lose the house. We have nowhere to go." "Should have thought about that before you chose Megan over me," I replied. Again, it wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I cut her off. 2 years I've been paying your mortgage, 2 years of extra shifts and weekend work, and the one time I want to be included in a family holiday, I'm told I'm not welcome because precious Megan needs a stress-free environment. Well, now you can all be stressed together. There was a long silence, broken only by her muffled sobs. "Alex," she finally said. "We're sorry. We made a mistake. Please help us." Too late. I replied and hung up. New Year's Eve came and Jim invited me over again. Just a small gathering, him and Shannon, another couple from the building, and me. We played cards, ate too many snacks, and watched the ball drop on TV. At midnight, my phone lit up with another text from my aunt. Your parents got an eviction warning. 30 days to pay or get out. Please, Alex, they have nowhere to go. I showed it to Jim, who shook his head in disbelief. Man, that's rough. Family drama at its finest, huh? Yeah, I replied, putting my phone away without responding. But not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. Shannon, who'd obviously been filled in by Jim, gave me a sympathetic look. Family can be the worst sometimes, but also the best. It's complicated. I nodded but didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to forgive them. Maybe I never would be. Later that night, as I walked back to my apartment, I realized I'd spent more time with Jim's family in the past week than I had with my own in months. These people who barely knew me had shown me more kindness and genuine interest than the ones who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Maybe family wasn't about blood after all. Maybe it was about who actually gave a damn about you as a person, not just what you could do for them. January crawled by, cold and merciless. I kept busy with work, saved the money that used to go to their mortgage, and even started going to a weekly poker night with some guys from the construction crew. My life was settling into a new rhythm, one that didn't revolve around my family's needs. For the first time in years, I'd even met a girl, Emma, who worked at the coffee shop near my apartment. Nothing serious yet, just casual conversation whenever I stopped in. But she'd written her number on my cup last week, and I was working up the courage to use it. Then, one frigid Sunday morning, there was another knock at my door. This time, it was all three of them, Mom, Dad, and Megan, standing in the hallway looking like they hadn't slept in days. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed from crying. Dad looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen him. And Megan, perfect, precious Megan, had dark circles under her eyes and was wearing a Kroger uniform under her coat. Can we come in? Dad asked, his voice lacking all the authority it once had. I hesitated, then stepped aside. They filed in silently, taking in my new TV, the fresh paint on the walls, another weekend project I had time for now that I wasn't working extra shifts to pay their mortgage, the general sense that I was doing just fine without them. Nice place, Megan muttered, and I caught the flash of resentment in her eyes. What do you want? I asked, not offering them seats. Dad cleared his throat. The bank, they're foreclosing. We have 2 weeks to get out of the house. I folded my arms. And? We have nowhere to go, Mom said, her voice cracking. We can't afford an apartment with the credit hit we're taking. No one will rent to us. I looked at each of them in turn. Sounds like a real problem. What does it have to do with me? Megan suddenly burst into tears, not the pretty, delicate crying she usually did to get her way, but ugly, desperate sobs. We fucked up, okay? Is that what you want to hear? We fucked up. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Mom looked shocked at her language. Dad just stared at the floor. We were wrong, Dad said quietly. About Christmas, about everything. We took you for granted. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Took me for granted? You used me like an ATM for 2 years and then threw me away when I wasn't convenient anymore. That's not taking me for granted. That's exploitation. We know, Mom whispered. We were terrible to you. I turned to Megan. And you, the queen of the castle, nothing to say? She wiped her nose on her sleeve, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I've been working at Kroger, she said, as if that explained everything. People are so mean. My feet hurt all the time, and I only make $400 a week. Welcome to the real world, I replied, the one I've been living in while you played entrepreneur with Mom and Dad's money, then sat on your ass while I paid the price for your failure. I know, she nodded, fresh tears streaming down her face. I was spoiled and entitled and selfish. I never thanked you. I never even thought about what you were doing for us. Dad stepped forward. We're not here to ask for money, Alex. That surprised me. Then what do you want? Forgiveness, Mom said, and a place to stay, just until we can get back on our feet. I stared at them in disbelief. You want to live here, with me, in my one-bedroom apartment? Dad nodded. We have nowhere else to go. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation was too much. Let me get this straight, I said when I could speak again. You uninvite me from Christmas because I make Megan uncomfortable. You take my money for 2 years without a single thank you. And now that I've cut you off and you're facing the consequences of your actions, you want to move in with me? They looked at each other, then back at me. We have nowhere else to go, Mom repeated, as if that changed anything. I walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered parking lot below. For 2 years, I'd been at their mercy, working myself to exhaustion for people who didn't even want me around for Christmas dinner. Now they were at my mercy, desperate, homeless, finally seeing me as their only option. I turned back to face them. No. No? Dad repeated. No, I confirmed. You can't stay here. Not now, not ever. But where will we go? Mom asked, fresh tears welling up. I shrugged. That's not my problem anymore. You made your choices. Now you live with them. Please, Alex, Megan begged. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll pay rent. I'll do anything. Like you should have been doing for the past 2 years? I asked. Too late now. Dad's face hardened. So that's it? You're just going to throw your family out on the street? Family? I repeated. You stopped being my family the moment you decided I wasn't good enough to sit at your Christmas table. The only thing you wanted from me was my money. Well, the ATM is closed. I walked to the door and opened it. I think we're done here. They didn't move at first, as if they couldn't believe this was happening. Alex's mom tried one more time. Please reconsider. We're begging you. It feels terrible, doesn't it? I said quietly. To beg someone for help and be refused. To be thrown away when you're no longer useful. Maybe now you understand how I felt. One by one, they filed out. Megan last, her Kroger name tag glinting under the hallway light. Where will you go? I asked, not because I cared, but because I wanted to know the full extent of their desperation. Mom's coworkers said we could use her garage for a few days, Dad muttered. After that, I don't know. I nodded. Good luck with that. As I closed the door, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For 2 years, I'd carried them, paid their bills, fixed their problems, been the responsible one while they coddled Megan and took advantage of my generosity. Now they were gone, their problems were their own, and I was free. I picked up my phone and scrolled to the number Emma had written on my coffee cup last week. Maybe it was time to see what else life had to offer besides family drama. The next day at work, one of my crew members asked if I'd had a good weekend. I smiled and said it had been productive. I didn't mention my family's visit or their desperate situation. Those weren't my problems anymore. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. They could lose everything. I'd already found my peace.